different ways.
Artaha, an object. Bahuguna, many qualities. Ashrayaha, endowed with. Ekaha, one. Nana, differently. Iyate, is perceived. Tadvat, similarly. Bhagavan, the Supreme Shastravartma Bihi, according to different scriptural injunctions. A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scriptural injunctions, he appears to be different. Purport. It appears that by following the path of Jnana Yoga, or empiric philosophical speculation, one reaches the impersonal Brahma, whereas by executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one enriches his faith in and devotion to the personality of Godhead. But it is stated here that both Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga are meant for reaching the same destination, the personality of Godhead. By the process of Jnana Yoga, the same personality of Godhead appears to be impersonal. As the same object appears to be different when perceived by different senses, the same Supreme Lord appears to be impersonal by mental speculation. A hill appears cloudy from a distance, and one who does not know may speculate that the hill is a cloud. Actually, it's not a cloud, it is a big hill. One has to learn from authority that the sight of a cloud is not actually a cloud, but a hill. If one makes a little more progress, then instead of a cloud, he sees the hill and something green. When one actually approaches the hill, he will see many varieties. Another example is in perceiving milk. When we see milk, we see that it is white. When we taste it, it appears that the milk is very palatable. When we touch it, it appears very cold. When we smell milk, it appears to have a very good flavor. And when we hear, we understand that it is called milk. Perceiving milk with different senses, we say that it is something white, something very delicious, something very aromatic, and so on. Actually, it is milk. Similarly, those who are trying to find the Supreme Godhead by mental speculation may approach the bodily effulgence or the impersonal Brahma, and those who are trying to find the Supreme Godhead by yoga practice may find him as the localized Supersoul. But those who are directly trying to approach the Supreme Truth by practice of Bhakti Yoga can see him face to face as the Supreme Person. Om Jnana Timidantasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jayadvaita Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Holi Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. From the way Ramaroy's Prabhu is turning around, it seems like you find this cut up disturbing. Yes? I can't remember ever attending, like a college lecture or a high school lecture or a public lecture where people were like cutting things up in the background or stapling things or doing that. It does distract. And we're already working in a terrible acoustic environment where everything echoes and ricochets. These matters can be considered. Yatendriyai pratagdvairayar arto bahu gunashraya eko naneyate tadvat bhagavan shastravartmabhi. So yata introduces a comparison. Yata tadvat, as this, so that. So the example is, the matter to be explained is the eka, the one absolute truth, who's nanayate, nana-iyate, variously perceived. And the example is given that pratagdvarai, through the different senses, or in different ways, indriyai pratagdvarai, through the different doors, the senses. What is it? Doors of perception, old Aldous Huxley book. Through the different senses, indriyai, the same subject, artha, is seen differently according to its different qualities. So Prabhupada gives the example that milk through the eyes is seen as white. Through the tongue it's tasted as delicious. Through the nose it's perceived as aromatic. To the touch it's perceived as hot or cold. To the ears it's perceived as milk. Actually, the ears are the most effective because by hearing one can understand something about its taste, its aroma, its heat or cold, its digestibility. So many things can be understood by hearing. But still, through the different senses, the milk is differently perceived. Although it's one substance, it's perceived differently. So in the same way, the absolute truth is one. Eka Brahma Dutiya Nasti. There's only one absolute truth, Advaita. Advaita Achyuta Manadi Mananta Rupa. The absolute truth is indivisible. The absolute truth is one. But still perceived variously. The other example Prabhupada gives is that of a hill. From a distance you just see a vague shape. Then you get up closer and you see that it's got some brown, some green. And if you get up close, you'll see deer and different kinds of birds and rivers and different kinds of trees and so on. So it's not that there are three different objects. Some scientists might say, well, we have three different recordings, and so perhaps there are actually three different objects there. When you get close, it's one object, like in physics, where you see it this way, it's a particle, that way it's a wave. Maybe it's three different objects. Maybe there's a vague shape out there, and there's a green and brown, and there's the detailed thing. There are three different things. When you get closer, it changes. When you move back, it changes again. But here we understand, no, it's one substance, but according to the distance, it's differently perceived. Vaguely, a little more clearly, and finally with all details. So the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, Shastra Vartmabi, according to different Shastras, is perceived differently. To the Gyanis as the impersonal Brahma, to the Paramatmavadis as the Supersoul, the Yogis, and to the devotees as the personality of Godhead. Ultimately, the Supreme Person is the destination of all different processes. So Bhagavan, Shastra Vartmabi, the object that's seen differently is Bhagavan. He has different aspects. The fortunate person who, by following the principles of scriptures, becomes completely purified of all material contamination, surrenders unto the Supreme Lord as everything. Just as one can appreciate the real taste of milk with the tongue and not with the eyes, nostrils, or ears, one can similarly appreciate the absolute truth perfectly and with all relishable pleasure only through one path, devotional service. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. If one wants to understand the absolute truth in perfection, he must take to devotional service. Of course, no one can understand the absolute truth in all perfection. That is not possible for the infinitesimal living entities. But the highest point of understanding by the living entity is reached by discharge of devotional service, not otherwise. So one may say, well, same truth is perceived differently, but you're privileging your view. There's Paramatma, there's Bhagavan, there's Brahma. You're privileging your Bhagavan point of view because of your theological commitments. But yesterday we discussed that Bhagavan is considered the ultimate feature for various reasons. One is that the impersonal Brahma is resting on Bhagavan. Brahmano hi pratishtha amritasya viryasya cha. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Brahma rests on me. Tad Brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam. It's the bodily effulgence of the Lord. Also because the Bhagavan feature includes the other features. It's the most complete feature of the Absolute. By following various scriptural paths, one may come to the impersonal effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The transcendental pleasure derived from merging with or understanding the impersonal Brahma is very extensive, because Brahma is ananta. Tad Brahma nishkalam anantam. Brahmananda is unlimited. But that unlimited pleasure can also be surpassed. That is the nature of the transcendence. The unlimited can be surpassed also, and that higher platform is Krishna. When one deals directly with Krishna, the mellow and the humor relished by reciprocation of devotional service is incomparable, even with the pleasure derived from transcendental Brahma. When Prabhupada says humor, he doesn't mean amusement. The humor is, in Prabhupada's language, a particular kind of relationship or taste. It's an English equivalent for rasa. It's not hasa, it's rasa. Prabodhananda Saraswati therefore says that Kaivalya, the Brahma pleasure, is undoubtedly very great and appreciated by many philosophers. But to a devotee who has understood how to derive pleasure from exchanging devotional service with the Lord, this unlimited Brahma appears to be hellish. Kaivalyam narakayate. One should try, therefore, to transcend even the Brahma pleasure in order to approach the position of dealing with Krishna face to face. As the mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, Krishna is called the master of the senses, Rishikesh. The process is to fix the mind on Rishikesh, or Krishna, as Maharaj Ambarish did. Savaya mana Krishna padada vindayo. Bhakti is the basic principle of all processes. Without bhakti, neither Jnana Yoga nor Ashtanga Yoga can be successful. And unless one approaches Krishna, the principles of self-realization have no ultimate destination. We were discussing that last night. We come to the point of Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, where we come to the point of seeing or perceiving that Brahma is the Absolute, everything is Brahma, Sarva Kalavidam Brahma. But then what? All right, Sarva Kalavidam Brahma. Everything is Brahma, that moment of realization. Everything is Brahma. Then what do you do with that? Now what? Everything is Brahma. Okay. And? Because I have to, what do I do? Do I now become inert? Do I merge with that Brahma? That's hard to do. Most of us are not going to, even if we realized that everything is Brahma, we have a tough time at once merging into Brahma and becoming totally inert. Our Atma's not going to burst through our skull and join with the impersonal Brahma. Not likely. So now what? So now I finish my meditation and go off to work and do my little 6 hours for Google or Apple or City of New York or whatever it is. So there's no practical outcome. By nature, we're active. And simply realizing that everything is Brahma doesn't give us much in the way of practical activity. If you're a highly realized yogi, then it doesn't matter. You just, they look at you before realization, they look at you after realization, you're doing the same thing. You're absorbed in meditation. Always. But we're not going to do that. So there has to be practical activity, and that's not possible by mere Brahma realization. Everything is one. And rather it leads to confusion. Our Giriraj Swami very famously, when he was a young brahmachari, encountered an all-is-one guy where was it? Harvard Square, I think. We were doing kirtan. Harvard Square, Boston Common. Anyway, one of those places. And the guy was going on, everything is one, everything is one. So then Giriraj Maharaj proposed that if everything's one, there's no difference between the money in your wallet and the money in my wallet. So the money from your wallet can go into my wallet. Actually, I think it was the whole wallet. It doesn't matter whether it's in your pocket or my pocket. And the guy was so stubborn that he had to agree. I think he later realized the impracticality of his approach and had to come beg for his wallet. Our Gurudas Prabhu did the same thing with a sadhu. They were staying in some cold ashram, and the guy was going on, everything is one. So, and there's no difference between your chadar and having a chadar and not having a chadar. So Gurudas was warm and the sadhu was cold. And Prabhupada did that also with one. We were in Boston at might have been Northwestern University, anyway, one of the colleges in Boston. A big engagement.
MIT, or I think it's...
No, this was not MIT, that was a different one. A big engagement, a big hall, and kind of like what we have here, a foyer, but big, very big stretch in front of, big lobby in front of the hall. And out in the lobby we had our books, we had prasadam, we had so many things. And in the hall, Prabhupada gave his lecture. So after the lecture, we came out and manned the tables. And I was manning some book table or something. And all of a sudden, this like wave of hubbub went through the lobby. You know, and everybody's like, boom, buzzing. So what had happened? I didn't know, I'm in my corner. But later I found out that while leaving the hall, Prabhupada was talking to one professor, an Indian professor, and the man was going on, everything is one, everything is one. And whatever Prabhupada said, no, everything is one. So finally Prabhupada took him by the shirt and said, if everything is one, then why don't you wear a cotton ball instead of a shirt? Cotton ball is the unprocessed cotton that you get off the plant. Why don't you wear a cotton ball instead of a shirt? Everything is one. So everything is one, lacks explanatory value and lacks practical options to deal with. It also doesn't explain, lacks explanatory value in that if everything is one, where have these varieties come from? The ultimate origin of everything is absolute oneness with no distinctions, with no duality, no difference between anything and anything else. It's totally homogeneous. Well, how from that homogeneous oneness do you get variety? The impersonalists can't explain. We can explain how from Krishna, the reservoir of variety, we get all other varieties. But to explain how variety comes from the impersonal one is difficult. And so they invoke an explanation that all these varieties are Maya. They're illusory, they're produced from sheer illusion. Actually, there's oneness only. But due to illusion, due to our illusioned nature, we perceive varieties. Okay? But now you've got two things. You've got the one and you've got illusion. And now you have to tell us where the illusion comes from. There again, we fail. How, if everything is unadulterated oneness, can you have two-ness? To say nothing of three-ness and ten-ness and further multiplicity. You can't even get two if you have one. So everything's one except for that Maya gets in the way of our seeing it. Where did this Maya come from? Again, from Krishna, Maya can come. Vividaya vishruyate. Parasya shaktir vividaya vishruyate. He has varieties of energy. So the varieties of energy can act differently. Even one energy can act differently. Actually, Krishna has one energy, but it's divided according to how it acts. So we have electrical energy, it lights the room, it cools us down, and it heats us up according to how you use the energy, or how it's set up. So according to the way Krishna deploys his energy, it acts as the illusory energy, it acts as the transcendental pleasure potency, the illusory pleasure potency. It acts as this, it acts as that, because it's under his full control. Or Prabhupada gives another example, the state treasury. State treasury is one, big pile of bucks somewhere. But it's divided up, and then we say, this is the prison budget, this is the college budget, this is the road budget, this is the emergency management budget, this is some other budget. But it's all cash. And then we deploy it variously. Even in your personal finance, this is my food budget, this is my transportation budget, this is my investment budget, this is that budget. It's just, I think the temple works that way. Maybe they have a few different accounts, but from one account they'll run many different things. We won't get into the accounts, but that's the basic idea. So Krishna's energy is one, but he uses it variously. Or you can say, therefore, Krishna has various energies. But Brahma doesn't have energy. If you had Brahma and Brahma's energy, again, you have two-ness. So the Mayavad philosophy lacks explanatory value. It can't explain why we're surrounded by varieties, why we experience ourselves to be different people. Why that? If we're all one, why do we experience that I see things from this side, you see things from that side, I have one point of view, you have another point of view? I think Prabhupada gave this example, that he didn't give this example, but there's one, Prabhupada always sort of signed his letters, your ever well-wisher. And there's some other yogi, he signed his letters, your own true self. So you get a letter from your own true self. So of course, why does your own true self have to write you a letter? You're already your own true self. But apart from that, there's this argument. The guru is completely realized, yes? He's attained perfection. That's why he knows who he is, he knows what reality is, and so on. So if there's no difference between the guru and the disciple, because finally all living beings are one, then as soon as the guru attained perfection, the disciple should have attained perfection. Or in fact, all living beings should have attained perfection. If my guru attained Mahasamadhi, or he attained whatever you want to call it, every living entity should have attained the same thing, because there's no difference between one living entity and another living entity. But that's contrary to our experience. The guru is merged with the impersonal absolute, he's realized his own true self, so on and so on and so on. And I'm still here trying to figure out, what to do with my mind, what to do with my uncontrolled senses, what to do about paying the rent, what to do about this and that. So this oneness of all living entities, based on the idea that there's only one absolute oneness, doesn't work. And what to speak of, I'm one with the absolute supreme living entity, that really doesn't work. I'm one with all living beings, and finally, I'm one with God. But if I'm one with God, why is God enjoying ultimate, unlimited pleasure while I'm, depressed, dissatisfied, frustrated, miserable? Why is that? Prabhupada points out that the God, when he gets a toothache, has to go to the dentist, God. So that kind of oneness doesn't work. It's just untenable. And finally, it leads to a sense gratification. Because everything's one, well, now I have to do something. So what am I going to do? I'm going to enjoy my senses, because I don't know how to do anything else. Or I'm averse to using my senses in the service of Rishikesh, the master of the senses. So I'm going to use them in my service. Or rather, they're going to use me in their service. But we're going to be busy in the activities of Vishaya, sense gratification, because we have no higher engagement. This is therefore klesho dikata rastesha avyakta sakta cetasam. Those who are stuck with the idea of the impersonal absolute have tough going. And the devotees have very happy time. Krishna is the reservoir of pleasure. We serve Krishna, therefore we feel pleasure. So one can, people are just badly informed, badly misdirected. They've been fed all this, what's the word for it? Pablum. They're fed this pablum, baby food, that everything is one, and there's no difference between this and that. And wow, it's like profound and all of that. And it's all garbage. Not total garbage, there's something to it, but it's sadly lacking. It's just far inferior to personal realization. So much so that Prabodhananda Saraswati says, Kaivalyam narakayate. For one who's gotten a little, just a glance of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this great kaivalya that everybody's so keen on, this oneness, seems hellish. What do I want that for? A devotee might sometimes accept some of the other perfections, involved, go by the name of liberation, but never impersonal oneness, because he considers it hellish. Why would I trade in the transcendental pleasure of serving Krishna for the monotonous pleasure, the unvariegated pleasure of being merged in the Absolute? We discussed yesterday, that's like the exchanging the ocean for the few drops of water in a calf's hoofprint. So the devotee doesn't do that. He recognizes that according to different scriptures, one may perceive the absolute truth differently, and all these realizations are realizations of the same object, but he has the fullest realization. He has realization of Bhagavan, and therefore he sees that Paramatma and Brahma are one within Bhagavan, or understood as partial realizations of Bhagavan. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes?
One question and one comment. You were saying how the Mayavadi Guru is realized, and everyone should be realized. And I was thinking of another point of view.
I said that the Mayavadi Guru is realized, then everyone should be realized. Yes.
And if he's realized, then who is there to teach?
And if he's realized, who's there to teach? Exactly.
So the whole speaking is just nonsense.
The whole thing falls apart.
In the purport, it says, ultimately, the Supreme Person is the destination of all different processes. If we want to say yato mat tato pat, referring to this, is that okay?
If we want to say yatamat tatapat, as you think, that's what you can do. Everyone has his own approach to the Absolute. So is it okay here that everyone's on the path to self-realization? Even Krishna says, Mamavart manuvartante manusya partha sarvasha. Everyone is after me. But yes, you can say, but we have to admit that there are different grades of paths. There are different grades of paths. So you can go, Prabhupada said, to the top floor of the Empire State Building by the elevator, you can go by the stairs. Yatavat, as you like. Yateshjasi tatakuru, you can do what you like. But it doesn't mean that they're identical. If you want to go to Seattle, you can take the flight, you can walk. As you like. But it's not quite the same. You can worship the demigods. Tepi mam eva kontiya. If you faithfully worship some demigod, actually you're worshiping me. But avidipurvakam, in the wrong way. In the wrong way. Even the idea that all roads lead to Rome doesn't really work. If you take I-90, it's not likely that you're going to get to Rome. Unless there's like a Rome, South Carolina or something like that. Yanti deva vrata devanyat pitri yanti pitri vrata. You buy a ticket for Calcutta, you go to Calcutta. You buy a ticket for Tokyo, you go to Tokyo. It's not that you present your Tokyo ticket at the counter and now you can go to Calcutta. Every ticket leads to a different destination. And then you have to say, well, really there's no difference between Calcutta and Tokyo. And the agent says, yeah, there is a difference, $275. Apart from Tokyo being not Calcutta. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving the right idea, that there's oneness and at the same time there's variety. Thank you. Yes, something else? You want seconds?
Anyone else? Okay, so then this struck me. Of course, no one can understand the absolute truth in all perfection. That is not possible for the infinitesimal living entities. But the highest point of understanding by the living entity is reached by discharging devotional service, not otherwise. So it's like we can't fully realize.
No. We can't fully realize Krishna. Even Krishna doesn't fully realize Krishna. That's explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wants to understand his pleasure potency, so he expands his knowledge potency. Problem solved. But then his pleasure potency expands. And then his knowledge potency expands. So there's no end to it. All right. I think we can, yes.
I apologize in advance if this is too simple a question, but because it's a lot to digest from this talk. But I guess, rather than speculate with the mental jugglery as to what the accident actually is, the devotional service is energy through the body that engages the senses in a positive way, that down the line, if you continue to engage faithfully, the oneness will reveal itself to you.
Say that again. If you continue to serve.
I said the devotional service is a physical means to engage the senses.
Devotional service is a physical way to engage the senses.
Yes, and rather than have to engage in all this mental speculation.
And rather than have to engage in all this mental speculation.
Faithfully discharge your service, and then the revelation of Godhead and the oneness will take care of itself.
And then you faithfully execute devotional service, and then the realization of God and oneness will take care of itself. Yes. What is that? Janati Tattvam Bhagavan Mahimna, we quoted yesterday. That when Krishna, that's also Tunum Swami, what is that verse? Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedhaya nabhavana shrutena. The absolute truth can't be realized by just attending lectures or speculating or so on. But when he wants to reveal himself, then he's revealed. So our process is not to try to see Krishna, Prabhupada said, but try to act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. So when the devotee is serving Krishna, then Krishna becomes interested. Oh. And then he reveals himself, then it's possible. Yes, very good. Thank you. Not too simple. Very good. All right, we can stop here. Thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Yeah.